I am a noob to playing hard games. I admit, as a child, I would always select easy mode when booting up something new, and that even reflected on how I used my time at school. I never wanted to be in sports or clubs or really do anything outside of hang out with my friends and play video games. As an adult, I feel I have barely begun to grasp that difficulty and hardship make for a sweeter finish, and I can proudly say that Elden Ring was the first piece of media I ever consumed that taught me this lesson. Difficulty is a lot more complex than something just being hard to do. Apples can be as hard as rocks when approached with the wrong mindset. If you try cutting an apple with a plastic knife, it's going to be hard, maybe doable eventually, but hard. But if you use a method that has been proven to work, like a metal knife, it can be quick and easy. Just like if you approach any given stone with the wrong tools, you'll have a hard time cracking it open. When I downloaded Sekiro the moment I beat Elden Ring, I think that I went into it assuming that I would be able to use the same tools I received in Elden Ring to fly through Sekiro without worrying, and that was honestly my mistake. Every FromSoft game that I have played up until this point almost immediately has posed a specific question to me, which is, are you willing to learn? And if you're not ready to answer yes to this question at the moment of its asking, you might as well delete the game and try again next year, because FromSoft games will not work with you if you're not ready to work with them. I think that a commonly asked question in the games industry these days is difficulty limiting accessibility, and should developers of perceived difficult games like FromSoft include an easy mode in their games, and by now, tons of YouTubers have tried to give their own answer to this, usually coming to the conclusion that it wouldn't work and that the industry just needs to keep making a diverse array of different kinds of games so that everybody has something that they can enjoy. And I agree with this. There is no way From Software would be where they are now without difficulty being their main selling point, because killing a boss in a Souls game is challenging, and when everyone is having the same challenge in the same game, it creates a sense of community, putting everybody on the same playing field, sharing similar experiences. The best advice I can give someone who is new to this sort of thing is that if you don't use your deaths as an indicator that you need to reassess your approach to whatever boss or area that's giving you trouble, you're gonna have a bad time. Especially if you get frustrated easily like I do. If you die in this game, it's almost 100% of the time because you made a series of uninformed decisions, which is always okay because you will just be able to restart relatively a short ways away to reattempt anyway. Though you may lose some XP and gold on your way back to the idol without unseen aid, but hell, it's a lot more forgiving than its sister series, who won't hesitate to burn up all of your currency for failing to do better than you did last time and retrieve it. Even though Sekiro is mildly more forgiving than Souls, it doesn't take away from the design philosophy that in order to overcome this game's obstacles, you need to either get better at the game or try a new approach. There is almost no other answer to lost progression in a FromSoft game than this.
時は戦国末期。日の本すべてを焼いた戦火はいまだに勢い衰えず、山深いアシナの国にも燃え広がっていた。
将田村討ち取ったり。
剣聖芦名一心、国取りの決戦であった。
野良犬が心すらなくしたか。ああ、共に来るか、飢えた狼よ。
そして戦場で拾われた狼は修行の末熟達の忍びとなった。
忍びの掟は忘れまいな。親の次に大事なもの、お前の心に刻むがよい。あれが今日からお前の主だ。命を賭して守る。たとえ奪われるとも必ず取り戻すのだ。よいな、狼よ。
Sekiro's opening exposition scene is probably my favorite out of all of their games that I have played so far. I think it sets the tone of the entire game perfectly, leaving you feeling like you know a lot more going in than you normally do in a FromSoft game. The first area is a straightforward stealth tutorial mission to reach your master. He gifts your first weapon, Kisabi Maru, which is the sword we will be using as our primary weapon for the entirety of the game, and sends you to clear the way to the escape path. You also get the healing gourd to help cure the wounds you sustained and are on the battle tutorial now. Battle is the focus of this game, and you can really tell how polished and smooth the parrying and countering feels. It's the main thing that sets it apart from the rest of its sister series. Sekiro is a game about being a ninja, and it embodies that perfectly, seeming to have little to no peers in its genre save for possibly Liza P, but even that game's parrying never felt as good as it does here.
久しいな、巫女よ。叔父上の墓前以来か。
源一郎殿。私はすまぬ。
お任せを。
邪魔立てするか。巫女の忍びを。
Finally clearing the path, you run into punk-ass Genichiro, who whoops on you and will most likely kill you if it's your first time playing, but it's a fight that is meant to show you the difference between you and him at the moment. After he tears your arm off, he takes your master and he leaves you there to die. Fortunately, the sculptor saves you and even gives you a new wooden arm so that you can be a real boy again. For now, the only person here other than the sculptor is this immortal guy that teaches you how to use different techniques and can be useful to practice on for a while before going out into the real world. Skirting along the Ashina outskirts, stealth killing and running away when necessary, you run into the first mini-boss of the game, being General Namori, where most will first learn the second chance mechanic and still lose on the first try. I admit in the past he was giving me a great deal of trouble, stopping me dead in my tracks for hours, but I had to prove to myself I could get better at this game once and for all, and still ended up taking about 4 tries to beat him, but I think that might be a record for me. Continuing the outskirts, I got this bell and met this merchant guy who said that he remembers me from a raid he was involved in on the castle, who sells information and asks you for help constantly so that he can grow his business further. I returned to the sculptor's place real quick to see what was up with him, and I met this lady who says she can increase my gourd seeds, and the sculptor slapped a kunai shooter on my prosthetic arm.
目をつぶり鈴の声を聞いてやるといい。その鈴の音が呼び覚ますじゃろう。眠っちまってるお前さんの古い記憶を。
After the sculptor tells me not to mess with his Buddha statue, I immediately go mess with it and offer it the bell that the old woman gave me, and I was suddenly transported to the past. I met this guy who said he met me, and then I picked up a few items and made my way to this burning area to fight this big guy who kicked my butt so hard I went to take my anger out on this other big guy, and then he did this to me. The chained ogre has always been a pretty hard fight for me, but this time I felt like I was doing a good job of avoiding his attacks, and I stayed aggressive, kiting him around, reading his movements the best that I could. The next opponent was General Tenzo, who has a huge arsenal of people around him that you can stealth from the right angle, and get off one sneak attack if you're lucky. He is a lot like the other general I just fought, just a bit stronger and a lot more annoying to set up. I continued down this path discovering the world snake and jabbing it right in his peeper because he was trying to eat me. The next opponent I came across was an epic masterpiece of a battle, being Gyobu Oniwa, who chases you around on his horse, forcing you to lasso yourself to him when he darts away from your onslaught. This was the first major wall I knew I had to overcome because I had actually never gotten past this guy in my earlier playthroughs of this game, and this would be the test of my true skills. So far, I have felt that the key to most of my victories until now was memorizing the move patterns of my opponents through trial and error. If you don't allow yourself to be frustrated by your losses and allow yourself to learn from them, you will eventually overcome any boss in this game. The second thing that you will need to win this fight is going to be aggressiveness, because if you don't learn to be aggressive in this game, you will never get anywhere, as your stronger opponents will have stamina gauges that refill rapidly until you lower their health. Gyobu is probably the easiest fight out of all the boss battles in this game, but in my opinion, he is the most memorable and fun to fight. Gyobu killed me more than 15 times before I finally felled the beast of a boss, and I actually even almost messed it up at that, forgetting to finish him off with the quick time event and getting hit one last time. Defeating major bosses like this reaps major rewards, landing us our first memory so we can finally increase our attack power with our sword. The next area leading up to the castle brings us to the Blazing Bull, which I had heard many horror stories in the past of people calling it one of the hardest bosses in the whole game, and I was honestly spooked until I fought it for the first time, and though he did end up killing me, I didn't think he felt impossible to beat at all. I don't think that the fight is really overly challenging. I mean, he is just a bull. You just gotta get away from the horns. The bull probably killed me about 5 times before the beefcake finally fell to my blade, and I moved on to finally face Ashina Castle and was greeted by this insane woman.
ありがたいや、ありがたいや。
何を拝んでいる？
はい、お前さん、千宝寺を知らんのかい？金剛山の千宝寺。尊いお方がそこにはおわす。さあ、お前さんも拝んでみ。ありがたいや、ありがたいや。
I took this opportunity to go back to the past and kill the big guy so I could get in this place. but I realized I needed a key to open the door that I didn't have yet, so I went and killed the shinobi hunter who opened up the path so I could go talk to my dad and get the key to challenge Lady Butterfly so that I could get my next memory.
父上母上蝶々よみんなどこへ行ったのだ
巫女様現実か
久しいなフクロウのせがれよ
お蝶殿言ってください
そなたは
なすべきことをなすのです。
わかりました
さてやろうかせがれ殿
Lady Butterfly is a powerful opponent to take on without a strategy, but once you really learn the patterns in her attacks, she can become a breeze. The only problem is that you have to stay diligent and commit to learning when she's going to attack you after the amount of times that you've attempted to strike her. I found that a good rule of thumb for most bosses in this game is to not try to keep attacking more than 1 to 3 times per opening, and the amount of times varies between bosses. Any more rushing than this can cause you to get stuck in attack animations when you need to be getting ready to counter the boss's next attack. I was struggling with Lady Butterfly, so I decided to try a different path and went off to challenge the Lone Shadow Swordsman, who kind of felt like a good prerequisite to Lady Butterfly fight, being another ninja battle. I stealthed him and torched his ass until he dropped, finally giving me access to the abandoned dungeon where I saw my first Shaman King, who I avoided like the plague because he was scary. I went back to kill the 7 Ashina spears so I wouldn't be leaving a good prayer bead behind because God knew I needed it, and descended deeper into the depths to take out Snake Eyes the gun guy, revealing the path to a hidden forest. I think that the hidden forest is one of the first places in Sekiro that really started making this world feel as magical as it was meant to. The eerie mystery of the ghost people, coupled with the strange creatures that seemed to be causing the occurrence, sent shivers down my spine when I was first playing it. I thought the Mist Noble would be tough when I first saw it, but the second I sensed it being staggered so easily by my attacks, I just rushed it down until it was too late and the mysterious corpse died, with all of its mysteries. This lifts the smoke on the town and reveals the path to Mibu Village, another much more sinister town. This place is littered with seemingly just normal humans who were corrupted by some sort of sinister force in this town. We meet a guy who is in a basket who is hiding from the townspeople, hinting that this all may be being caused by something the villagers had been drinking. I continued down this path and met Orin, who whooped me at first, but did not stop me from running past her since she seemed optional for now. Past Orin was unfortunately a much harder boss than the corrupt monk, so I thought it would be the perfect time to return to Lady Butterfly herself. Lady Butterfly kicked me up and down the street about 10 times until I figured out her second phase. Finally, when she did any summoning, I would just run around the map, and this worked for her Elder Stars type attack as well, and eventually it became just as easy as the first phase, and I received my second memory.
私のためそなたは戦ってくれた。捨ておくことなどできるものか。狼よ、我が血と共に生きてくれ。
This seems to be the moment that the Dragonair gives the lone wolf his power, saving him from the rubble as the room collapses after an epic bout. After that fever dream, I returned to Ashina Castle where I climbed the rooftops in order to find a way inside, making my way to the top to challenge the Ashina elite. This boss isn't crazy difficult, but the inclusion of the other soldier in the room can get pretty annoying at times, but luckily the elite himself is only mildly stronger than a normal enemy samurai. After this, I leapt out the window to see what was in store for me on the rooftop, but unfortunately my entire game file corrupted and I had to restart the game all the way from the beginning. For some reason, I didn't really see this as a problem. It was early in the day, and this current day I didn't really have much to do, so I sat there and did in one day what had taken me the entire weekend to do, and made my way all the way back to the top of Ashina Castle in just one sitting. After you know how to beat a boss at its own game, it truly sticks with you. All of that knowledge you gained from defeating them is compounding into a lump sum that you will need in the later boss fights of this game. More or less, I was back to where I was, and it was finally time to challenge Genichiro.
おじい様のご様子はどうだ。
一心様は命を保っておられるのが不思議なほどです。
そうか。巫女よ、もう一度言う。不死のちぎりを俺と結べ。
できませぬ、源一郎殿。たとえひとたび敗れるとも、命を落とし主を必ず取り戻す。それが我が忍びなれば。
お迎えに参上いたしました。今しばらくお待ちくだされ。なるほどな。貴様を殺しきらぬ限り流飲を我が手にはできぬよ。
I catch him trying to touch my little boy, and it's beef on sight. Genichiro is hard at first, but very telegraphed once you learn the pattern to his movements. The key here will always be repetition, just training yourself to block and dodge him mindlessly. He was pretty difficult at the level of skill that I was at the moment, so I went to have a training arc and found a new land, Senpu Temple, Mount Congo. The beautiful temple landscape leads to a bridge where you encounter the Armored Knight. The Armored Knight is seemingly invincible, not taking any damage, suggesting he has a perfect defense, but could still be posture broken, so there was some sort of trick to this battle. When experimenting with different methods of defeating this turtle, I accidentally sent him flying off the side of the bridge after a posture break, making me realize why the walls were all being destroyed inside of this bridge. FromSoft has done gimmick fights before, like the Witch of Izalith, which is a fight I don't really enjoy at all, but I think this one's a lot better than that. It involves a good deal of thinking and trial and error to figure out, and I like that, but Rykard is still probably my favorite FromSoft gimmick fight. It just feels like such a cool anime kaiju battle. I then returned to Genichiro to finally end him, since I felt I might be strong enough now with the bit of grinding I did. And ready I was. Within 3 attempts, Genichiro Way of the Tomei fell to the lone wolf. After winning this battle, I threw down my controller and raised my hands in a victory pose because this fight felt amazing. and extremely telegraphed exchange between the two of you in this first phase feels so badass, combined with the rivalry you already have with him because he's the one who took your arm and the Dragonair from you. His second phase is terrifying because you already had to suffer through fighting his first phase through 2 death blows, but the single ray of hope you get from this is a single death blow sign for the second phase and a tutorial on how to redirect thunder attacks back at your opponent that is difficult to pull off in this particular fight. Genichiro ominously jumps off the roof clinging to life and you finally get your boy back, but before long it's back to business and we need to go find Lord Ishin in one of the other towers. On the surface, Lord Ishin is a chill old man, but for some reason it feels like there's something he's not telling you, but he does give you some good advice for the rest of the game, telling you that if you hesitate, you will lose. The rest of the story is about Sekiro helping this kid sever his immortality because they no longer believe anyone deserves it and it just drives people mad. You get set on the trail of the Mortal Blade, which is said to be in Senpu Temple. I then make it to the tippy top of the main tower of Senpu Temple in order to find the blade and end up chasing some monkeys around a dream realm that was really annoying, but at least it gave a memory. Once you catch all the monkeys, you hear a voice that transports you to the inner sanctum. Here you meet a woman who reluctantly gives you the blade that kills you instantly when drawn, just like she says.
覚悟が終わりならば改められよ。なぜ皆死を厭わぬのですか。あなたは一体。その右目、流因の呪いを受けているのですね。
不思議り、確かにもらい受けた。
You bounce back because you're the man and finally receive the Mortal Blade, which is a new special attack that does a ton of damage. When talking to this woman again, she gives you some rice and sends you on your way. The next thing you need to do to sever immortality is go to the Sunken Valley, which I decided to do after toasting Orin of the Water, who is a very tricky opponent having a sort of awkward attack pattern, and the Corrupt Monk, who can not really be staggered as quickly as most bosses, forcing you to whittle their health down and avoid its long-reaching attacks in a war of attrition. Defeating the Corrupt Monk revealed the Wedding Cave door, which was a mysterious cave that obviously had some later application. The next place on my list was the Sunken Valley, so I plopped on down there and found another Snake Eye gun guy and ran right past him, blowing past the fort to reach the Human Centipede, who is one of my favorite bosses in the game just because it's so fun to deflect his rapid light claw attacks. Running past these monkeys, swinging around, I came across a Mega Monkey and I'm spooked. The moment I saw the Guardian Ape, I got chills down my spine because I had heard so many tales of its ferocity, so I decided to match it with my own, but getting slam dunked for quite a bit. The Guardian Ape took me about an hour to defeat, but lo and behold, the single death blow charge he had was much too good to be true, and upon removing the beast's head, it rises once again, picking up its severed head to use as a sonic resonance device that can cause terror and kill you instantly. Not only that, but the beast also grabs the sword you just used to chop off its head to attack you awkwardly as well. 3 hours of getting my ass handed to me later, I yanked the parasite from the beast's neck cavity and sever its immortality for good. Returning to the castle, we learn it is under siege by your father trying to take the Dragonair for himself. There's a lone shadow in place of the previous Ashina elite in the castle dojo now on the way up to the castle, and after dealing with him, we can finally reach the top to challenge Owl.
せがれよ。なぜこの父の思いがわからぬのだ。忍びの掟を忘れたか。
掟は己で定める。そう決めました。我が主のように。
少しは成長しておるようだな。やろうか。狼よ。
Great Shinobi Owl is one of the greatest battles in this entire game. He requires so much fine-tuning and thought because of his varied attack pool that mimics your own, so you kind of get to fight a slightly larger version of yourself. It took me quite a while to finally drop Owl, but when I did, it felt well deserved and satisfying. With the death of the man who raised me from a pup finally behind me, I head back to the wedding cave to do some peyote and got carried away by a giant rope. This brings us to the Forbidden Palace, and by God, there is another corrupt monk with 3 whole deathblow charges. With the first corrupt monk being one of my least favorite bosses in the game up until this point, I was honestly shocked and appalled when I saw this guy for the first time, but I think he actually proved to be one of the bosses I like most in this game. I already knew most of his attacks going in because of the ghost one, and I could do a ton of damage to him now. When he did his Smoky Wraith spell, I kind of would start roping off to these trees in the triangle, and they never really touched me. Though it took a few tries, I finished off the monk, and suspiciously, it had seemed to be being controlled by the same kind of parasite that was controlling the Guardian Ape. The Forbidden Palace grounds are all wet and are infested by these nobles and creepy samurai, but for the most part, if you resolve to get the items later and run through, you can get to the second half of this area quite easily. Unfortunately, the moment you get to the bridge though, you are accosted by this guy shooting thunder bombs at you with perfect accuracy every few seconds that seems nigh impossible to reach. By some miracle, I dodged past his onslaught, fed this fish some poison, and I found out where I was going, which was apparently inside of this girl's head.
辺境か。
I honestly had no idea what was going on when I entered this girl's dream, and I was definitely not expecting a horde battle with ugly dragons that eventually turns into a massive kaiju gimmick fight against the Divine Dragon himself. I think that the Divine Dragon is definitely above the Armored Knight when it comes to FromSoft gimmick fights, and might even be the best one they have ever done. If not for the horde battle in the beginning, it just feels a little underwhelming even the first time around. The only way it seems to even damage the Divine Dragon himself seems to be to get good and learn how to catch thunder attacks and throw them right back in his face, seemingly training you to deal with this sort of attack in the future. Other than that, you're mostly just hopping from branch to branch, trying to dodge the beast's sword attacks, and before long the Divine Beast bows his head to us. When we return, we're told that Ishin has died by Emma and see his body lying on the ground, being told that he finally succumbed to his illness. We learn that the young lord has fled the castle in light of the current siege that was now befalling it. Many of my previous fast travel points had been locked, so I had to make the trek to the escape route on foot. But on the way I encountered a demon from hell and watched him fall off a cliff, learning later from the merchant at the sculptor's shrine that it was the sculptor himself who became that demon.
Kuro-sama.
久しいな、巫女の忍び。見よ、不思議りのもう一振りよ。
健一郎殿。そのようなものでは決してアシナの命運は変わりませぬ。狼よ、流因など誰の手にもあるべきではないのだ。苦労をかけるな。
脅威。参る。
ああ、しまいとしよう。
I finally make my way down to the escape route and met Genichiro in battle for the last time. Genichiro now has the Mortal Blade and starts off in a Way of Tomei, only having one death charge, and is fairly easy to defeat now, seemingly only having a mildly more advanced moveset than his original Way of Tomei phase. Ishin the Sword Saint is the best final boss I have faced in any Souls game, period. This fight took me days to finally get the feel of in his first phase with Genichiro. You can take him out like yesterday's garbage because he's easy peasy and can be staggered very easily. As for first form Ishin, you need to time punishment to the T in between his seemingly complex onslaught of attacks. His spear form makes you take even more things into account, as his sweeping attacks can catch you off guard as they're kind of awkward but can easily be jumped over. And once you get him to his Thunder Spear form, it's all fun and games because mastering that lightning catch in the Divine Dragon battle really pays off when it not only prevents you from taking that damage, but does a huge chunk of posture damage and health damage to Ishin as well. I was really stoked about how my winning fight went when I did end up finally taking him down, so I'm including it here so you can see how it's done as well, because it's really a true work of art.
俺がアシナを生かす。海にじらせはせんぞ。
じゃあ赤炉さらば。
おそばにおります。竜の涙。
我が生涯の忍びを、虫たちをお願いできますか。
これはやはりあなたが持っていてください。また新しい忍びが力を求める時が来るでしょう。
Sekiro is so much more than a Souls-like. It almost embodies a genre all its own with its parry-based ninja battle system, and I believe it holds no peers to this day. I also believe that this will be so until Bethesda eventually releases Sekiro 2 Electric Boogaloo, that they have hinted at in the past. If you include Sekiro in your pool of Souls-likes, then yes, Sekiro is my favorite Souls-like game I've played so far, but like I said, Sekiro is a lot more than a Souls-like game. It's an adventure made with so much love that may never be replicated again. However, Sekiro is not really a game I see myself coming back to and doing reciprocal runs very often of. I think what I got from this playthrough of the game was pretty much most of the story. I think there are things that can happen like alternate battles with Owl in the past, but for the most part, I'm feeling pretty content having beat Sekiro one time. It feels like a testament to my skills since I've been trying to get the hang of this game for so long. If you enjoyed this video and you have any tips or personal opinions on Sekiro Shadows Die Twice and your experiences with the game, or if you just want to chat about nerd stuff with me, please leave it down in the comments section below and leave some suggestions for games you'd like to see me talk about or try for future videos on this channel. I'd like to thank you all for watching. All that I ask is that if you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe down below. I will be releasing a new video every Monday.